As we know, the PACT Act is a newly signed law that expands VA healthcare and benefits for our veterans exposed to burn pits and other toxic substances. The law provides veterans and survivors with care and benefits. The PACT Act is long overdue for many generations of veterans. As a Gulf War veteran myself, it didn't start or end with us. As we know, many more veterans of the Vietnam, Gulf War, and post 9/11 eras continue to suffer because of toxic exposures. The PACT Act is the largest healthcare and benefit expansion in the VA's history. This act expands eligibility for VA healthcare to veterans exposed to toxins and veterans of the Vietnam, of the Gulf War, and of the post 9/11 eras. Veterans and survivors can now apply for PACT Act related benefits. In order to receive VA disability, a service member must prove that it happened on active duty. Now, for some conditions, the VA will presume the conditions were caused while in service. All you have to do is meet the requirements for presumptive. For Gulf War era and post 9/11 veterans, there are now 20 additional burn pit and toxic exposure presumptive conditions. These changes expand benefits and healthcare for Gulf War and 9/11 era veterans. The PACT Act added 2 additional Agent Orange conditions. The first is hypertension or high blood pressure, and the second is the monoclonal gammopathy of undermined significance, or MGUS. Brian, first slide, please. The PACT Act also pertains to service members and their families stationed at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1987 who were exposed to the contaminated water. This law will provide generations of veterans and their survivors with the care and benefits they've earned and deserve. So here in this first slide are the cancers that are now presumptive. Please take a minute to take a look at them. Next slide. Can you go back one? These are the illnesses that are now presumptive. Again, for Gulf War and 9/11 veterans. Next slide. Go back one. There you go. If a veteran served in any of these locations on or after August 2nd of 1990, the VA has determined they had exposure to burn pits or other toxins. Next slide. If a veteran served in any of these locations on or after September 11th, 2001, the VA has determined they have exposure to burn pits or other toxins as well. Next slide. Here are 2 locations being added for Agent Orange. If you served in any of these locations, it will be presumed you were exposed to Agent Orange. Next slide. Sorry. If you took part in any of these activities, it is presumed you have exposure to radiation. Okay. At this time, you could shut them down if you like, Brian. At this time, I would like to introduce the City Council President, good friend of mine, and also a Navy veteran, Councilor Ed Flynn.
Thank you, Commissioner Santiago, and to the panel that's here. It's an honor to join you and veterans across the city in the state. I want to thank you and the veterans and military families for the important work on getting this passed. As you know, it took a long time for this important piece of legislation to pass Congress. I had the opportunity with Commissioner Santiago to visit DC several times to support this bill and meet with different leaders about the PACT Act. It's an incredibly important piece of legislation, as Commissioner Santiago explained, and it will make sure veterans and military families are treated with respect and dignity. We must recognize the challenges our veterans face when returning home and provide them with the necessary care and support. Their service and contributions are indispensable, and as a nation, we have a duty to protect and care for them. this bill is part of that. I'm honored to be with you. I want to say thank you to our veterans and military families for getting this bill passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. Next up, we have the Director of the VA Boston Healthcare System, Mr. Vincent.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, everyone, and good evening to the panel members and Council President Ed Flynn. I have my sidekick, Anita Runaday, who's our Chief of Business Manager with me today. But what I'd like to start with is really give a quick overview of the PACT Act. The Commissioner did a very good job in terms of paving the way for what I'm going to offer you. So the PACT Act, if you spell it out, it stands for Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxic Act of 2022. So our job in the VA is now Congress has passed this legislation and transferred the execution to us. Our job is to do the best we can to provide not only enhance the claim process, but on the healthcare side, to enhance our healthcare system to make sure we meet the demand and provide the highest quality of care to our veterans. If you look at the Boston VA facilities, and actually all three facilities in the state of Massachusetts, one of the areas that we measures when we do a veteran satisfaction survey is the trust score. The question basically, how much do you trust the VA in provide you the best health care? And Boston is 95% trust level. And overall, with the facility in Massachusetts, all facilities are over 90% trust score and higher than the national average. So we are extremely proud of this accomplishment, and we will continue to provide the best healthcare and earn your trust as new veterans enroll into our system. So what are some of the key components of the PACT Act? As the Commissioner said, it really expands and extends the eligibility for VA healthcare. Right now, nationwide, the VA is serving around 9 million veterans. With this PACT Act, there's an estimate that we'll add another 3 to 4 million veterans to the system. So you're looking at between 40 to 45%, maybe even up to 50% expansion of eligibility for veterans, which is a great thing. With the presumptive condition outlines, it really streamlined the decision-making process, reduced the gray area that often is a focus of our examinations, but this is very well spelled out, so it will help a great deal of interpreting and executing the eligibility. Starting November 8th, all enrolled veterans into our system will get a toxic exposure screen. Actually, there are 15 facilities in the VA already started as a pilot. And what they have found so far is about 30% of the veterans have some concern about toxic exposure. Now, let's get to the finalizations in terms of VA eligibility. It's too early to tell, but let's just give you an indication from that 15 facilities pilot, the percentage of concerns that we see raised by veterans. And it also allow VA healthcare staff and claim processors to make sure that we get the toxic exposure related education and training. So I did my training just about a week ago. Every VA employee is required to do this training to make sure that we have a basic understanding of the purpose and our mission in implementing this PACT Act. In addition to that, there's funding the PACT Act for research. And The VA Boston healthcare system is the largest research medical center in the whole country in the VA system. Our research budget is close to $130 million. And actually, the commissioner joined us just to open up our new research wing just about a week and a half ago. And we have 10 National Center of Excellence in Boston in terms of research. And one that I hope you have participated. If not, I'm marketing it to you. It's the Million Veterans Program. For the last 10 years, we are attempting and succeeding in getting genetic sample of veterans for future research or now research of service-related conditions using genetics. Right now, we have collected over 900,000 veterans genetic sample. We have about less than 100,000 to go. And I hope that we can do it in the next year or so to get to our million veterans mark. And last but not least, is this act allow us to build a stronger and more skilled workforce. There are quite a few employment incentive in this PACT Act that allow us to be competitive in terms of salary, allow us to pay back school loan for employees just graduated, let's say from medical school, nursing school, laboratory technicians, so that we can attract younger folks into our system and stay with us to service veterans. So this is very comprehensive veterans legislation, not only serving veterans and their family, but enhancing research as well as attracting the best workers and employees to the VA system. So let me stop here and turn it to Anita to talk a little bit more about the eligibility portion of this legislation. So Anita, I'll turn it to you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ng, and good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for your time and joining today. So I'm going to go through our eligibility criteria. So as Commissioner Santiago had mentioned, this is perhaps the largest expansion to VA eligibility. So for our veterans who served in the following locations and time periods are also eligible to enroll in VA healthcare. So for the Republic of Vietnam, between the dates of January 9th, 1962 to May 7th, 1975. For Thailand, Laos, certain provinces in Cambodia, Guam or American Samoa or their territorial waters, Johnston Atoll. So at any of these following locations and time periods, you're also eligible to enroll in VA healthcare now. I just want to stress that we encourage you to apply for VA healthcare no matter your separation date. Your eligibility depends on your separation date, your service history, and other factors included. So definitely encourage you to apply with us. I will go on to the extended healthcare eligibility for certain Gulf War era veterans. So beginning October 1st, 2022, so that's just shy of a couple of days, the Gulf War era veterans who served on active duty in a theater of combat operations after the Persian Gulf War may be eligible to enroll in VA healthcare. And this also includes veterans who, in connection with their service during such a period, received the following awards or recognitions. And the third category is extended healthcare eligibility for combat veterans. So beginning October 1st, 2022, post 9/11 veterans who did not previously enroll in VA healthcare will have a one-year window in which they may be eligible to enroll. If you served on active duty in a theater of combat operations during a period of war after the Persian Gulf War, or served in a combat against a hostile force during a period of hostilities after November 11th, 1988, and were discharged or released between September 11th, 2001 and October 1st, 2013. And so to apply for VA healthcare, there's different ways to connect with us. You can apply for VA healthcare online and complete your application, which includes your 1010 Easy. You can also call, this is a national toll-free hotline. It's 877-222-8387. You can also mail in your application to our Health Eligibility Center that's located in Atlanta, Georgia. And the fourth, which I'm a huge advocate for, we have a wonderful team that is our eligibility and enrollment team at the VA Boston Medical Center. We're located at the Jamaica Plain, the West Roxbury, and the Brockton campuses. So encourage those of you on the call or any of your colleagues to please come visit us in person. We'd love to assist you through the application process. If you have any questions for us at VA Boston and you want to speak to someone before even coming in, our phone number is 857-364-5269. And I will repeat this throughout the process, and I certainly can drop those contact informations in the chat. But I definitely want to encourage everyone on this call and who may not have been able to join, that please apply for eligibility and to enroll in healthcare, no matter what your separation date may be. And we at the VA will assist you. The last slide I have here is some links to some extremely valuable resources. So if you visit www.va.gov/PACT, all of this information is available, as well as contact informations that have been outlined. There also is a national number for PACT that's been stood up as well, and that's 1-800-MY-VA-411, or the number is here. Commissioner Santiago, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you, Anita. Some great information, and I'm glad to see that the VA is opening up to these for applications from the other areas. And to Vincent's point about the MVP program, the Million Veteran Program, it is a great program. I actually worked on the program when I worked for the VA, and I was the 8th veteran to actually do my surveys and get my blood drawn. So I was in the top 10. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Tom Ryan. Tom Ryan is an Army and Marine Corps veteran, and he's with the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services, and he is also a National Service Officer. So I don't think of any better person to have on this call than Tom, talking about the process for VA claims moving forward. Tom?
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. So what I want to talk about is the process for the claim and a little bit about the timeline. So for those veterans that want to file for the first time, as we know, it's a 526 easy. If you're going to put that hypertension on there, it's the first time they filed, just go ahead and put the PACT Act in parentheses right next to that. Veterans been previously denied, it's the 200995 supplemental claim. Okay, and also put PACT Act next to the ailment or the cancer, excuse me. Any updated health information, diagnosis, progress note, go ahead and send that in. The VA has stated January 1st, the Secretary McDonough says they're going to start adjudicating those claims, even though there are dates out there running around. Hypertension is not going to be adjudicated until 2026. He has stated that they are going to start doing those claims as of January 1st, 2023. The big thing to look for are the widows, the DIC claims. I'm sure everybody has veterans in their file whose spouses are now eligible. Go back and try to find those spouses. They can either reapply, which is the best route to go, even though the VA has stated that they are going to look back for those previously denied claims. If you find these widows, have them refile, have them do a statement saying they have been previously denied. If they can remember the date, put the date and send that in. Those DIC claims are going to be immediate. So if you put a claim in tomorrow, it's going to start being processed tomorrow. They're not waiting on those. Those are going to get done as soon as possible. And as I said, the timeline for the rest after January 1st, 2023. A couple of the issues, the backlog they've spoken about. Right now, as of yesterday, when I looked online, the VA had already taken about 70,000 claims since the PACT Act has been signed. So, tell your veterans there will be a backlog. The good thing about the PACT Act is these claims are not going to go to central locations. So it's going to be ROs throughout the country taking the claims, raiders adjudicating the claims. It's not going to be like the Blue Water Navy claim where only 5 different regional officers handled them, or MST claims where only certain regional officers handled them. So, but there will be a backlog. They expect a huge number of claims to come in. When you look at the widows, that's a whole different number. That's a very large number. You look at all the Thailand veterans that have been denied over the years that have now passed away. Those widows are out there. So, look through your files and get them to file, get them into the system. I saw one question in the chat room about the hypertension. As I said, I think Matt and I have already probably put in about 80 hypertension claims, previously denied, new claims. Get them in. Get the claims in now. Don't wait. Get them in now, because that's 70,000. It's just going to get larger. The quicker you get your veteran in there, the quicker he'll be on the list.
Hey, Tom, can you explain for those who don't know what DIC is?
So DIC is a benefit for service-connected death. So a veteran that may have filed for hypertension 15 years ago and was denied, and has since passed, his wife is now eligible for that service-connected death benefit. So that is about $1,400 a month. All she would need to do is file the 534EZ, check the DIC box, send in his death certificate, send in the marriage certificate, and just, a quick synopsis. My husband had applied for a hypertension, if she can remember, such and such a year, and has now passed on. And I would like to be awarded the DIC benefit.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Anything else?
I don't, unless you have any other questions, I just wanted to run down a quick synopsis, get the claims in. Don't wait. Don't think because something's going to be adjudicated on paper, it says 2023, 2026. Get them in now.
Great. Thank you, Tom. That's some great information. And, that's what we tell everybody in this office too, is file your claim as soon as you can. And if you're a service member thinking about getting out, start the process now. Once you get your DD-214, you got everything in order, and then you can start working with the VA. But do everything as soon as you possibly can. Next, we have Hank Nowden. Hank is another Army veteran. He was also a state representative here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He's executive director of the Veterans Advocacy Project. And Hank, the floor is yours.
Commissioner, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here with you. I hope you can hear me. I'm actually in the Delta Lounge at the National Airport in DC. I was down here for a meeting this week, so hopefully you can hear me. Actually, I did take a day today, and I stood out with a bunch of Iraq and Afghan vets in support of the Afghan Adjustment Act. These are a lot of the same people that stood out in front of Congress where they are today to push for the PACT Act when it got stuck in the Senate earlier this year. So they do great work, and it was very meaningful to me and an honor and a pleasure to stand there with them. I'd like to talk a little bit about the law itself. As Rob said, I did serve 26 years in the House. A period of that time was as chair of Veterans Affairs, and then also chair of Public Safety, where I interacted with the National Guard and our veterans on a significant basis. And I do have a lot of sound around me here, so I'm going to try to be quick. The PACT Act was actually a combination of several different bills that ended up getting consolidated and passed under HR 3967. And before I get to the Camp Lejeune piece, which has gotten a lot of attention, the burn pit's very significant, especially for those of us who served in both Iraq and Afghanistan at different times. One piece was the Mark Takai Atomic Veterans Healthcare Parity Act. Mark Takai was a great guy. I knew Mark. He was a legislator in the state of Hawaii. He started the National Association of Legislators in the Military. And then he was elected to Congress in 2014, and unfortunately, before the end of his first term, he contracted pancreatic cancer and passed away. It's also been mentioned with the Palomares or the Thule Act in regard to veterans who were exposed to radioactive cleanup materials in Palomares, Spain, or in Thule Air Base in Greenland. And you've already heard about the exposure to the Agent Orange adding hypertension as a disease associated with Agent Orange exposure. And then the veterans, the burn pits exposure, directs the VA to presume that certain respiratory illnesses and cancers were related to burn pit exposure, allowing veterans to obtain disability payments to compensate for their injury without having to prove the illness was the result of their service. It adds conditions related to burn pit and toxic exposure, including hypertension, to the VA list of illnesses that have been incurred or exacerbated during military service. You've all seen a great deal of talk about the Camp Lejeune Act and many TV commercials from law firms and the like trying to get clients. It's estimated that between 600,000 and 1 million people may be impacted by the Camp Lejeune Justice Act. Those that had lived or worked or served at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, between August 1953 and December 31st of 1987. I am for full transparency, I am a partner in a law firm, Napoli and Shkolnik, and we do handle these cases, but we're really taking a very different tack towards it because there still are a lot of questions that need to be worked out as far as the Camp Lejeune Act is concerned. But it's the only part of this act that actually provides a cause of action, allows you to bring a case to court for individuals who resided, worked, or were otherwise exposed, including in utero, babies, for not less than 30 days and exposed to the water supplied at Camp Lejeune between August 1st of 53 and December 31st of 87. You have to go through the claims process provided by the VA and have them denied. And then you can bring a cause of action, bring a case, bring a lawsuit. That's why you see all the lawyers advertising. Here's the rub here. The cases must be filed in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of North Carolina, where Camp Lejeune is located. And that is the exclusive venue for this. And the problem that we see, and this is one of the reasons my firm is now taking a bit of a wait and see approach. There are only 6 judges assigned to that court, 6 federal judges. So you can imagine if the cases start flowing in between 600,000 or 1 million individuals, how overwhelmed that court will be. There are groups, the American Bar Association among them, as well as veterans groups, who are trying to work with DOD to see if they can set up an adjudication process separate and apart from the court process. It remains to be seen, and while we're all very happy the law is passed, the specifics is still being worked out, and we're trying to determine whether or not a administrative process could be set up. The burden of proof shall be on the party, the veteran filing the action, and to produce evidence showing the relationship between the exposure to the water at Camp Lejeune and that the harm is sufficient to conclude that a causal relationship exists that was caused by the water. Claims under the section for harm described include a latent disease, but then you cannot thereafter bring a case against the United States. And that's just kind of some legalese. I wouldn't get too worried about that. The big part here is that the federal government cannot assert any claim to immunity in an action under this. That's been removed. Oftentimes, under the Federal Tort Claims Act and other pieces of legislation, the federal government has immunity for damages that may have been caused. And another fly in the ointment here, which we're hoping can be re-examined, is that there is a statute of limitations on this, as with many legal cases, many statutes. Claim under this section may not be, must be convinced no later than 2 years after the date of the enactment. So that clock is ticking. Or the date is 180 days after the date which the claim was denied, that had initially been filed with the VA. So that's another kink that we are hoping to work out and maybe have some type of amendment done to this. And another thing that, again, is causing a lot of questions under the Campus Union Act is right now, the way it's written, it's been interpreted that any award made will be offset by the amount of any disability award payment or benefit provided under any programs by the VA, Medicare, or Medicaid, or in connection with healthcare or disability in relation to that exposure. So that's a lot at once. Very happy to talk to anybody on a sidebar. But again, that's an issue that we feel still needs to be looked at a little more in depth about any offset that may occur. That being said, at its core, this bill is to expand VA medical access, and it's one of the most significant pieces of legislation dealing with veterans in the generation. So that's but those are a few things I want to point out about this. And just Rob, say thank you for having me here. I'm happy to stick around until I have to go board my plane in a few minutes and answer any questions that may come up. I hope you could hear me.
Hey, thank you, Hank. Thank you for that great information. I have a question for you. What advice would you give a veteran if they're considering joining one of the class action lawsuits?
Just be careful. Look at the firms, and there's a lot of confusing information out there. Look at the firms that are advertising on TV. You kind of want somebody that may have some type of, what I always suggest is you go with local talent, someone that has local representation that you're going to be able to have access to. You're not going to be calling somebody down in North Carolina or Florida or these other firms. But start with your local. Massachusetts is great. I live out in Clinton. We've got a great VSO. Here, the city of Boston has a great veteran services commissioner. And
I'll give you $20 later.
I would start with your kind of get advice from your local VSOs, and then talk to start the claim process. I don't think you need to jump and hire a law firm immediately. And maybe I'm speaking against my own interest there since I work for a law firm. But I don't think it hurts to start locally and learn everything you can before you dive in and go run into one of these big law firms.
Thank you, Hank. Tom, real quick, have any veterans talked to you about if they should actually should we do a claim first and then jump on a lawsuit, or what advice would you give them? Would you tell them to go ahead and do the VA process first, kind of like what Hank had mentioned, or?
Exactly. I would start the VA claim. I would get the VA claim in. Public contact at the regional office has already received hundreds of calls from veterans saying, what should I do? Should I get on a lawsuit? Or I've already signed up for the lawsuit. And, the answer is we really don't know, as Hank had said, what this offset, to be honest. So my suggestion is hopefully the VA, the benefit is there, and let the VA work for you.
Thank you, Tom. All right, we are doing good on schedule. Again, thank you, Hank, Tom, Anita, Vince, Ed, for being out here and speaking to us about the PACT Act. And now it's time for the Q&A session. So at this point, we've heard from the subject matter experts that I've just mentioned. Now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to hear from you. As a reminder, you can type in any questions you have in the chat function. Please note that we have received several questions before the webinar as well. We will do our best to answer as many as we can tonight. So now I'll pass it over to Brian Bishop, who has all the questions.
Well, currently right now, I've got 2 questions in the Q&A, and the participants do not have a chat function. They have a Q&A function. We have a chat function between us here. But if you have a question, please type it in the Q&A session. I know Tom was in the process of actually, and it's gone, he already answered the question, but it was also about DIC and retro. Tom, you want to talk about that a little bit as far as DIC and retro?
Sure. So the DIC claims under the PACT Act are the only claims that are going to fall into NEMR. And NEMR, as we know, is the retro process as they were under the Blue Water Navy. So those claims will be retro. They're the only claims that fall into NEMR. The rest of the claims will go back. You have 1 year. If a veteran files a claim in 6 months, it'll go back to the date that the bill was signed.
Outstanding. Also, we had a question. I know you touched on this, everything, but the concern was about the October 2026 adjudication of hypertension for Vietnam vets. As you did state, is that the Secretary has deemed that that is not going to be the case. They're going to start working on these as of January 1st of 2023. Person who submitted that question, hopefully that answers your question for you. But it does seem like that they're going to go ahead and start working on this as soon as possible. All right.
He actually spoke at the American Legion convention a few weeks back, and that was brought up at the convention, and he stood right there on the stage and said they're not going to wait.
Awesome. All right. Next question is, this individual has placed a first-time claim in July 2022, completed a CP exam and 1 more exam remaining. Should I enter a new claim for hypertension under the PACT Act, or wait until the first existing claim is completed before submitting?
No, so what'll happen is that claim will get a relook. So you don't need to refile. It might not hurt to do a quick statement, 4138, stating that the veteran had filed a claim, previous to the PACT Act with the date, and just say that the veteran would like to be considered under the new PACT Act 2022 and send that in. But those claims are supposed to get a relook.
And also to the person who asked the question about DIC, can you tell the number of DIC claims mentioned earlier?
Total number of claims is 70,000 that have been put in so far. That's DIC, that's veterans, previously denials, new claims. My thing is they're just adding up very fast. So try to get the veterans' claims, whether it's a veteran or a widow, as soon as you can.
Right. Commissioner, if you had some of the writing questions, we can start with that. I have one more here that just came in. Education benefits for children who are attending college at the time of the denial, will they receive retro education?
Is that to me?
Yeah.
Yes. So you will have to file, just as you would education, you file a 674B, and you'll have to send that in. We actually just did one not too long ago, and it was approved for 3 children. So yes, go ahead and file.
Okay.
I do have 2 questions here. This is for both of them for VA Boston Healthcare. What is VA Boston doing to seamlessly implement the PACT Act and the possible surge in applicants?
Okay, let me start, and if any have anything to add, please go ahead. So one of the things that just talk about is the CNP exam, the compensation and pension. Now, of course, the benefit office now using quite a bit of contractors to do it. But we continue to maintain our compensation and pension service, because there are a lot of veterans that cannot travel long distance. And also, I'm not biased, but our quality of CNP exam is better than send out. And that, our providers really know the veterans well and their environment. So we are enhancing our CNP service so that we can meet the surge. And of course, I just talked about part of the PACT Act is allow us to be more competitive in hire healthcare workers. I don't have to tell you, it's a very competitive market right now in Boston area and actually throughout the country in terms of healthcare workers. If you read the Boston Globe this morning, they talk about 20% of the mental health care beds in the private sector are closed. We have none. We maintain the number of beds that we have because we have very committed employees. But we need a lot more. We're hiring nurses, we are hiring laboratory technicians, we are hiring the trades to maintain the building, and we can give it more incentive now. So if any of you out there that have people that you know like to work with the VA, please join us. We need workers so that we can continue to meet the surge in demand. Earlier I mentioned that nationwide we expect 3 million additional veterans to join the system. So we're going to be prepared. We know that we have the capacity to handle it. And I know, Commissioner, if you hear that we are not meeting the demand, not doing good enough job, you all let us know. And we have that open line communication. So we are ready for it.
I definitely will, Vince. I know you're between VA Boston and our office here in the city, we have a great working and collaborative relationship. And I will say this, and I'm not being biased either. I worked at the VA Boston Healthcare there in Jamaica Plain for several years before joining the city, and it is one of the best places to work. I would not have left. I still would have been there had not been given this opportunity. So, for anybody out there, please look into it. USA Jobs has a listing of all the positions that are open in VA Boston, in the VA Boston healthcare system. Take a look at those and apply for those that you are interested in. The other question, are veterans who were previously denied healthcare now covered if they meet the conditions of the PACT Act? And I think, Anita, you might have touched on that a little bit.
Yes, and that's correct. They would. And so absolutely, looking at the different criteria for the PACT Act, even if your service states do not line up, encourage you to apply for VA eligibility and enroll in VA care. And we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Brian?
Okay, I got a couple up here. One is, where can veterans access the list of the 31 new medical facilities now authorized to provide benefits under the PACT Act?
I have a list that I can send you, Brian.
Okay.
You mean the facility, additional facility
Yes.
that the VA has authorized to lease or
Yeah.
build? Yeah, I do have it, and I can send it to you.
Okay.
There's one in Massachusetts, Springfield.
Oh, it's Springfield. Okay. Awesome. Let's see. What is the amount for a dependent school-age child for a deceased veteran in addition to the $1,400 received by the widow?
So for the education, I'm trying to think what my sister got, and that was a few years back. Was it the $1,200 rate a month? It depends on, I don't want to say the area, but there is some parameters. If they shoot me an email, and I'll get the answer that they need.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and she said she just wanted to clarify to not college, but school age.
Oh, okay, so that's a whole different thing. Yeah, have her reach out to me if you would, please.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Do that. Let's see if there's anything else here. Nope. Commissioner?
I did have one question. I pretty much know the answer to this, but I want you guys to, the experts, to really answer on this. By enrolling and receiving an initial toxic exposure screening and a follow-up screening, I guess it's every 5 years, veterans who are enrolled, does that also help out with their claim?
Well, that gets them into the system.
Okay.
That starts the whole healthcare process. That's part of their records.
Okay.
And the other thing is that there's a registry that they can register to. It's been in existence quite a few years. So put your name in the registry too, while we were waiting. And I can send you the registry website too.
You know, there's thousands of veterans, that's all they use is the VA system. So those records, anytime a claim is filed, those records get pulled and get put, you know, the benefit side does not really talk to the hospital side unless the claim process is started. And it's at that point, all those records are pulled from the hospital, pre-records, and loaded into the benefit file for the veteran to be looked, so the raters can adjudicate the claims and look at everything that's on file.
That's good point. In addition, under the My Healthy Vet website, they can get to the record personally. They get access to it, the medical record.
It's a great website.
Tom, we're getting a question about what's the time frame for DIC right now? I know it's probably premature to even think about how long it may take. This individual filed in August.
Filed in August, you know, unfortunately, there are no set dates. You know, the VA doesn't have a set timeline to get claims done when it comes to the Pension Management Center. And, you know, I've seen perfect claims go in, take 60 days, and other claims take 18 months. But DIC, it's cut and dry, you know, 60 days, hopefully, but there's no set date. There's no set time.
If there was an average, Tom, what would that average be?
Straight DIC, no issues. Service-connected death, all the paperwork's intact. All the marriage information is there, 90 days. Conservative, you know. To be safe, I'd say 90.
Okay. Brian, any others?
No, sir. That's the bin is clear.
All right. Councilor Flynn, you have any closing remarks, last closing words?
Thank you, Commissioner Santiago. The only closing remarks I have, I'll be very brief. Again, just want to say thank you to the outstanding advocacy of these veterans, leaders, military families across the state. We're fortunate to have an outstanding leader at the VA in Boston, Director Ng. I was actually there today for one of my appointments, but the VA healthcare system really works. It's helping so many people. But again, I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Santiago, your team, and important work ahead. Let's continue working together. I also want to recognize my friend Hank Norton, who does a wonderful job as well.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. Director Ng, any closing remarks from you?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me and Anita to be on and help us to spread the word. And, you know, the city of Boston is doing a great job. I have mentioned many times before, the state of Massachusetts and the city of Boston really have great benefits and take care of the veterans. I've been around. I have worked in like 8 different states in my VA career, and Massachusetts by far is the best. Each town has a vet agent or commissioner. That's fantastic. And there's so many pathways for veterans to help veterans. So thank you for having us here.
Thank you, Director Ng. Tom?
No, I just want to appreciate the invite. It was great talking to everybody, and, you know, not to toot Providence, but the Providence Regional Office has been voted for the 5th year in a row, best place for VA employees to work.
Awesome. Hank, we don't want you to lose your flight, so miss your flight. So you got last word.
Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure to be in all your company. Thank you all for all of your service, all you do. And I'll give a shout out to the VA healthcare in Massachusetts as well. I go to Jamaica Plain myself, and it's stellar. I can't say enough. But it's a pleasure and an honor to be in all your company. Thank you for all you do. And people on this call and the people that you represent, veterans, are one of the reasons why Massachusetts and this country is as magnificent as it is. So thank you all. Good seeing you.
Thank you, Hank. I just want to thank everybody who came on the panel today. From the bottom of my heart, this means a lot to me that there are a lot of great leaders in the state, in our Boston VA benefits and healthcare system that really care about our veterans. And just to piggyback off what Hank said and also what Councilor Flynn said also, I get my care through the VA. healthcare system, and it's been top notch. As a matter of fact, I get more calls to set up appointments than I do calling to set up an appointment. So I think so that's good.
Commissioner, let me do one more thing.
Sure.
The booster clinic and the flu clinic is this Saturday at West Roxbury. Go get it.
From 9 to 2. And so I also agree that we have one of the best VA healthcare systems. As you can see, there's three leaders here that go to that facility. So thank you, Vince, for everything you and your team does over there. Thank you, Tom, for everything you do for our veterans and ensuring that they get their claims in, and it's tight, and they get the benefits that they have all earned and deserved. Constable Flynn, I can't say enough about you either for everything you do. It was an honor actually going down to DC with you that weekend for the PACT Act, and so it was so great to see so many people out there on behalf of our veterans. So it was great joining you, and Anita, of course, you and everything you do along with the director, and being here with him as well. So thank you all, and Brian for setting up the webinar and being the host and ensuring that all technical problems were taken care of prior to the webinar. So again, thank you everybody, and the charge goes on.
Thank you so much, everybody, and have a good night. And put November 5th on your calendars for the all-new Boston Veterans Parade that'll kick off Veterans Month. November 5th, 12 noon. Be there, downtown Boston.
Yes, we have the West Point band as well as the Navy band.
Yes,
So,
we do.
Oh, Navy's there. I'm not coming.
We actually have some amazing groups coming this year, and we're really excited about it. So mark your calendars now, and it's going to be an outstanding show. So again, for Commissioner Santiago, Mayor, and also Mayor Michelle Wu, thanks everybody for being here tonight. And you need us, veterans at boston.gov. That's where it's at. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, everybody, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.